How is everybody doing today? And in this video, we are going to be talking about Ruka and Yuki coming out very soon. And specifically in today's video, as you may see from the title and thumbnail, we are going to be looking at the teams to build for them or the characters that work well with Ruka and Yuki. And hopefully I can keep doing this series on for all of the characters coming out in case you are interested in grabbing them, or you're a collector, or you just really like that character because you just like that character. So otherwise, I will make this video for every character coming out, hopefully. And even more so, let's say a Thunder debuffer comes out for Ruka and Yuki, I will be making a video about them specifically and saying, well, they'll work good with these attackers, which will be a majority of these videos hopefully going forward. But going ahead and talking about Ruka and Yuki, they're both going to be Thunder DPSs or Thunder attackers, and one is going to be more single target oriented, which is going to be Ruka, and then the other is going to be AoE oriented, which is going to be Yuki. Now realistically, both of these guys will end up having the same ish teams as most attackers do, but of course catered towards Thunder, and of course looking at what their damage type is when it comes to single target or AoE. The really difference that you're going to make in these teams are going to be the debuffers, because it's going to be the difference between a AoE fragile and AoE defense down versus a single target fragile and a single target defense down. That's really the only difference that you will be making on these teams, but sometimes you might not even have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of the characters that actually will be of use to Thunder, Ruka, and Yuki, and then we'll start talking about what their roles are, and then looking at it, we're also going to be looking at what teams you can make, one a little bit more SS rank oriented and another more free to play / S rank oriented. That way it's a little easier for you to build a team depending on what your box looks like. So let's go ahead and hit straight into the game and start looking at which characters are actually going to be really freaking good for Thunder Ruka and Thunder Yuki. Now, one of the main characters that are definitely going to be a big plus for them is going to be Saika SS1 for her exclusive skill, which is going to be Sap and Zap, and this is going to be your Thunder field. That way you're able to give a buff to your Thunder attack, which is going to overall help both of these characters regardless. Another character is going to be SS2 Saika, and the reason I'm clumping these two together is because you can use either or. You either can use SS1 for the Thunder field, or if you have SS2 Saika, you can use her for the crit rate, crit damage, attack buff, which is overall just really good general support. Now the good thing is that if you do have both of these characters, both SS1 Saika and SS2 Saika, you do have the ability, if you want, to be able to go ahead, grab this Thunder field and give it to your SS2 Saika. That is if, of course, you finish this interjection. That way it turns this into a non-exclusive skill. You use all your materials that you currently have, and then you go ahead and throw this on the SS2 Saika. That way you're actually able to use your crit rate, crit damage, attack buff, and a Thunder field all in one character, and you only have to apply the Thunder field once, which is actually a really good thing in terms of SP management. And this is just going to make your Saika way better for Thunder teams, and it's going to help them out quite a bit. So Saika is definitely going to be one of the characters that you are going to be using on that team. And then another buffer to talk about is going to be Yingxia, because Yingxia, as I said before, is just a really overall good, I guess you could say, general support, just like Saika SS2, just because she is going to be giving you that multi-hit buff that allows you to do a lot more damage, which is really great overall for Yuki and also Ruka, depending of course on what enemies you're fighting. But looking at what she's able to do besides the multi-hit buff, she does have an S rank that feeds SP to your rear guard or the characters that are going to be on your back line, and that is pretty strong as well if you do have the S rank Yingxia. And looking at that, you can do the same thing as I said before with Saika. You can bring this SS Yingxia skill that's exclusive and make it non-exclusive so that the S Yingxia can actually use it. So that can overall be really good for Ruki and Yuka, both of these guys just as general supports, of course. Going into the next character, we are going to be looking at a character I sadly don't have. I was about to summon for her and I decided not to. I'm kind of stupid, I know. It is going to be Tama. Now Tama, when it comes to what she's able to do, as she is the New Year's Tama one that was here very recently, she actually is able to boost up Thunder attack boost, which is a really good attack overall, and then she does her own attack as well. So imagine doing all of these buffs, and then you also have this New Year's Tama helping out with the damage as well. Could lower the DP gauge by a bit in terms of the enemy, but overall this is a really good Tama to put right before your Yuka. That way you're able to go ahead and just straight up do so much damage with the Thunder attack boost and all the other relevant boosts as well, including now of course the Ruka using their ult as well and Tama using their ult as well. That's just a lot of damage going around overall, which is a really good thing to see. She's going to be a really nice character to have on the Thunder team because she does do that primary Thunder boost before she attacks herself. So you will be using this basically right before you do your attack with Ruka. The next character we're going to be looking at is, of course, our brand new and recent healer, which is going to be Mua. Now, Mua is a really great character overall for a bunch of element teams, just because on weakness, you are going to be getting that tactical vision from her delightful dash. I think that's the name of the skill. And this allows you to do a lot more weakness damage to the enemy if you have the tactical vision buff on. So Mua is definitely going to be a really nice premium healer for you to have on your teams, especially if you're going to go against a thunder weakness boss, which is going to be really strong overall. If you start having all of these pieces together, you're just going to do a lot of damage. Not only that, she also has AoE capability within her kit, so she can help with dungeons. And then of course she has that overheal, which is super strong, that gives you a little bit more shield than you had before, and I think that's a really good thing to have on a character. The next one is going to be, of course, Aoi, because Aoi is actually going to be able to defend really well in terms of a lot of the content in the game. I am going ahead and fighting so much in terms of power level of these enemies, and they're not able to break through Aoi for the most part. If you can time your angel wings as good as possible, you kind of don't need a healer, but Aoi is a really good defender if you're going to be using her, or any other S rank, I guess you could say, healer, which we'll be talking about later when it comes to the free-to-play teams. Another character that is going to be really nice as well is going to be Yuina. Yuina is a thunder unit as well, and this SS2 Yuina is going to be a blaster specifically. That way you're able to use the associated buffs that you'll be giving your team with having characters like Mua, having characters like Tama, all of these thunder related characters, and of course Saika as well with the thunder field. Yuina is going to be able to do damage, and not only that, she's also going to be able to raise devastation rate by quite a bit. But of course, with blasters, there is going to be that use case scenario of what are you going to need to raise that devastation bar. That is usually going to go into content like score battles or the anachronies. That way you're able to easily beat them in terms of maxing out their devastation bar. So Blaster Yuina is a situational case, but realistically she can be good to put on a team. The next character is going to be SS2 Megumi, and the reason why SS2 Megumi is going to be here is that she is actually able to go ahead and give you an AoE fragile, which is really good overall for the weakness damage that you will be doing to the enemy. And not only that, you also will be getting a defense down as well from her S rank, which is going to be overall really nice to have. That way you have a defense down and a fragile that you can put onto the enemy, doing massive damage. And then we're going to also talk about some of the S's that you will be able to use as well alongside Ruka and Yuki. That way you can use almost as much utility that you could possibly have in your box and build whatever teams you have if you don't have these specific SS's. Going into the S's that we will be looking at, we are going to be looking at the Exchange Kazooie. Now, the Exchange Kazooie actually has a really good move, which is going to be rips through an enemy with a sharp side blade, reducing their thunder defense. This is actually really important because this is not going to stack on top of a regular defense down. So now you're going to look at a regular defense down, you can stack that twice, and then you could technically stack this twice as well, putting the Exchange Up Kazooie inside your team. That way you're able to have 2 defense downs and 2 electric defense downs, because those are 2 separate debuffs, which could be super strong overall. So you definitely want to get this off the exchange shop. I'm pretty sure it's inside her actual story. If it's not, then my bad, but it's somewhere in the exchange shops, and this Kazooie is exchangeable, so she's completely free to play, which is an absolutely amazing thing to have. The next one is going to be Aina or Aina. Aina is actually a really good S rank debuffer, just because she does have her own personal AoE defense down, which is really strong for someone like Yuki specifically, but does of course work with Ruka as well. And then she also has a single target exposed vulnerability or a fragile, which will allow you to do more weakness damage, which is really good overall to have with Aina specifically. The next one is going to be Mia, because Mia provides a little bit of a similar utility when it comes to giving, if I'm not wrong, the fragile as well. And of course it is an AoE fragile as well, which will help with the weaknesses that you will be going against if you are bringing Thunder Ruka and Yuki to a Thunder weak boss. The next one is going to be Shiki. Shiki isn't really there specifically to do anything specific for those guys when it comes to Ruka and Yuki, but she is there for her limit break, and of course as well for the charge that you could give as well. Her limit break is going to be giving, similar to S Yingxia, a skill point to the rear guard or the back line, which is going to help out Ruka do a little bit more damage more frequently, and also get some of your buffs out there a little bit faster. And she also does provide the charge up, which is going to be its own separate separate buff that you only need to stack up once, and it does give you some extra crit rate, which is good overall to have. So if you do have this as Shiki, she's a good overall general character to have in most teams, just because she does give the skill points, which is a very valuable resource to have in a team, or I guess you could say a character to just generate skill points out of thin air. And then the last character to talk about, of course, as I just said before, is going to be the S Yingxia. This Yingxia is really great overall, especially if you have the double S version of her, because you can make the exclusive skill non-exclusive, put it on this Yingxia, and then she also has that generate a SP for the reserve units on the team, which is very, very strong. And not only that, she also has a defense down move attached to this version of the memoria, so that's really great as well. So let's go ahead and start making the roles in all these characters I talked about. I did give an overall description of each one, but now I'm going to give you a really fast bullet point version of it, and then we're going to start going to the teams. When looking at your DPSs, of course, Ruka and Yuki are your DPSs. Going into your buffers, now you're looking at Saika, SS1 or SS2. Saika SS1 is going to be your Thunder Fielder. SS2 is going to be crit rate, crit damage, attack boost, and you technically can merge them into both if you put the SS1 skill onto the SS2 through the introjection. Next one is going to be inside Tama as well, which is going to allow you to go ahead and get a Thunder attack boost with her exclusive skill. Yingxia is going to give you the multi-hit buff, and then Shiki is there for the charge / extra SP. The next thing is going to be the debuffers. These are going to be SS2 Megumi for the AoE fragile, Kozoe for the thunder defense down, Aina for single fragile when it comes to single target fragile, and then AoE defense down. Mia is going to be AoE fragile as well. Mua is going to give you a tactical vision, and then Tama is going to be your healer. This could be the SS Mua for the tactical vision, and then you also have the choice to use the S rank Mua and the S rank Tama for healing if you don't have any other defenders or healers that you can use for your team. And then lastly, I'll be, as I said before, a defender for a sustain, and then Yuina could be your situational blaster depending on the content that you're doing. When it comes to score battle, when it comes to the Anachronies, because those definitely are the modes where you want to have the devastation a little bit higher, that way you're actually able to do a crap ton of damage. And then now to talk about the actual teams themselves. The actual teams you will be building with Ruka and Yuki. When it comes to a more premium team, you are going to be looking at Ruka, of course, being on the team, because why else would you be building the team? Having one of these Saikas, which would be really great to have, either the SS1 or the SS2, or just having the SS2 with the SS1 skill. Having Yingxia with the multi-hit buff, having Tama with the thunder attack buff, Mua with the tactical vision, that way you're able to do more weakness damage to the enemy. And then the last slot is going to share between Yuina, of course, for the actual devastation rate booster. Then you also have Kozoe for the thunder defense down, Mia for the vulnerability, Megumi for the vulnerability and defense down as well. So it's any of these characters on this list that I just said to fill that last slot, depending on what you need or what characters that you have. And then the more S rank friendly version of this team would be something like Ruka, of course, Aina for the AoE defense down, plus having the fragile for single target, Kozoe for the thunder defense down, and it is a free-to-play unit as well. S rank Yingxia, that way you're able to do defense down and also give skill points to the back line. Then Shiki, same thing goes, charge buff with giving SP to the back line, and then S Tama for the full team heal. And I think pretty much this goes over every character that will suit well with these guys. I think I covered as many characters that gave a defense down and also that gave fragile. That way you can choose between which characters you have in your box. These teams will hopefully allow you to clear content and also make it a little bit easier for you to understand what teams you should be building and also what to look for in your box. Other than that, that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know if you enjoyed this video and also if you'd like to see more. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Always end the video. See y'all guys in the next one, and peace.